There are increasing signs that the United States and Israel are planning a massive attack against Iran, including an IDF source that was quoted in the Sun media portal candidly declaring that Israel has been working for months to clear the way for an attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. We will also tell you about a secret weapon that changes the rule of the game against the Islamic Republic of Iran. For his part, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, finds himself increasingly isolated and anxious, threatening his neighbors, including Qatar and even Turkey, against allowing the United States to use their territory to attack him. He also is refusing to conduct direct negotiations with the United States following Trump's threats, but is willing to hold indirect talks mediated by Oman. And meanwhile, in the Gaza Strip, the IDF carried out more than 100 strikes in Gaza against Hamas, taking control of a key route after the allegation of the execution of Palestinian paramedics. And against the backdrop of serious accusations, the IDF will present the investigation of the incident in which our forces struck a convoy of 4 ambulances on the access road between Tel Sultan and Rafah. And in the northern arena, a countdown has begun as the United States has given Lebanon an ultimatum, along with a severe warning in the form of an official statement by Special Envoy Ortagus that this is their last chance to implement the ceasefire agreement. And finally, we will of course deal with international diplomacy, including all the details pertaining to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's visit to the United States President Donald Trump at the White House on Monday. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your Boots on the Ground report about what is happening in Israel in this war against Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, the Shiite militias in Iraq, and all the other armed groups in this region operating on the orders of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, which is the head of the axis of evil in the Middle East. And a moment before we begin, I want to say thank you to all of you for all the support and invite you to click the subscribe button if you haven't already, so that you remain tuned to the truth in real time and never miss an episode of Boots on the Ground. If you've supported our Rebuild Israel campaign, thank you. And heads up, there's a special surprise coming your way very soon. We'll let you know. And if you haven't joined yet, now's the time. Visit tbn.org/rebuildisrael and help us restore and rebuild the land of Israel. So we begin today's report with events that happened in the Gaza Strip. IDF forces have begun operating for the first time in the Morag corridor that basically separates the Gaza Strip in parallel with the IDF's activities in other areas. The IDF stated forces from Division 36 have returned to operate inside the Gaza Strip and have begun their activity in the Morag corridor, where IDF forces are operating for the first time. And as part of the operation, dozens of terrorists were eliminated by the division's fire force and other forces, and terror infrastructure and weapons located in the area were destroyed under the guidance of the division's fire complex. In footage published by the IDF spokesperson's unit, one can see Air Force planes carrying out precise strikes on predetermined targets. The strikes were carried out based on accurate intelligence information with the aim of harming the terror infrastructures and preventing hostile activities against Israel. And in parallel with the offensive activities, the IDF, the Air Defensive Forces of Israel, acted to intercept a threat that came from the east. Last Friday, the warning system detected an unmanned aerial vehicle, a drone, that had penetrated the Israeli airspace. In footage that was published by the IDF, one can hear the radio chatter of the forces during the interception, which was carried out by a combat helicopter. So there is a story that is making headlines around the world, and it needs to be seriously addressed. I'm talking, of course, about the allegations that IDF forces terminated 15 Red Crescent paramedics in the Gaza Strip, including accusations that the survivors were executed and all of them were buried in mass graves with some of the bodies bound. The IDF presented its side of this story on Saturday following an investigation of the incident in which our forces struck a convoy of 4 ambulances on the access road between Tel Sultan and Rafah. In the incident, the IDF indeed terminated 14 of the ambulance occupants and one more was seriously wounded. This incident occurred on the 23rd of March, and immediately upon the resumption of the fighting by the Golani infantry unit of the IDF that were operating in the Tel el-Sultan area on the route connecting the city of Rafah to the neighborhood. The force set up an ambush on the route, and around 4:30, a Hamas police vehicle arrived. The force opened fire and terminated one of the terrorists, and two more were arrested. From there, the force continued the ambush and remained on high alert. And according to the IDF, during that time, additional ambulances passed by, but the force did not open fire against them. About an hour and a half later, at around 6, a convoy of ambulances arrived and stopped near the Hamas police vehicle, and a group of people got out of that vehicle. The soldiers believed that these were terrorists intended to storm the force, so they opened fire. The shooting was carried out from the ambush positions. And regarding the claims that some of the bodies were found bound, the deputy battalion commander collected them and covered them with kneading and sand as per the procedure. At that stage, according to the same procedure, they had to call a United Nations force, which was not present in the area, and because of the operation, the notification to the UN was given only several days later. The bodies were immediately photographed, and it was found that 6 of them were terrorists, so the force believed it had successfully accomplished its mission. The IDF has also stated that it does not know whether the ambulance occupants were armed. The investigation is supported by video footage which concludes that the force did not charge forward and the firing was carried out from ambush positions remote from the road. Okay? In a related story, Hamas published a promo for a video on Saturday featuring 2 hostages who have been held in the Gaza Strip under Hamas rule for 547 days. One of them, according to the hostage family's forum announcement, is Maxim Harkin, from whom no sign of life have been received until now. The hostages' families confirmed it was him in a statement saying that we recognized his voice. However, they also requested that segments or images from the video not be published until its full release at a later time. And finally, on Sunday evening, Hamas launched a barrage of 10 rockets at the cities of Ashdod and Ashkelon in Israel. 5 of the rockets were intercepted, while 4 others landed in open areas, and 1 hit a street in Ashkelon, causing damage to several parked vehicles and lightly wounding a man in his 30s. He was treated by Magen David Adom paramedics and then taken to an aerial hospital. So guys, here at TBN Israel, we will continue to report on every development regarding the fighting in the Gaza Strip, and we ask you to join us in prayer for the return of our hostages who are held in the most difficult conditions inside the Gaza Strip. So keep spreading the truth, share our videos on YouTube, and follow us on social media. And of course, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And a moment before moving on to our next topic, which is Iran, I want to draw your attention to reports coming from Lebanon. In recent days, the Deputy U.S. Envoy to the Middle East, Morgan Ortagus, had been holding a round of meetings with senior Lebanese officials, presenting Lebanon with a last opportunity before escalation. According to our report on the El Jadid channel, Ortagus made it clear that Lebanon must take advantage of the last opportunity it was given to implement the security plan and all clauses of the ceasefire agreement relating both to the areas south and north of the Litani River and to the required economic reforms. And furthermore, Ortagus made it clear that Hezbollah and the Lebanese state must not gamble on the element of time or in American-Iranian negotiations, while warning that it may already be too late to achieve the necessary progress. The international community expects Lebanon in the coming weeks to begin implementing the required commitments, both in the security realm and in the economic realm. The Lebanese state appears to understand the gravity of the situation, and Ortagus received assurances that the necessary steps are being taken. This includes enforcement of the ceasefire clauses related to Hezbollah's weapons and the formulation of Lebanese agreement on a defense formula. And according to reports, operatives spoke of the need to move towards negotiations with Israel through committees that will examine how to implement the disputed points and land borders. Lebanon has expressed reservations about direct negotiations, merely stating that the atmosphere in the meetings with operatives is positive and can be built upon. It is important to take note that Lebanon also wants an agreement on a productive scenario that will prevent Israel from expanding its strikes against Hezbollah targets inside Lebanon. Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to report on every development in the northern arena. So we ask you to help us by spreading the truth and subscribing to TBN Israel on YouTube. We work hard day and night to bring you the truth about what is happening in Israel, and we ask you to unite in prayer for the peace of Jerusalem so that God will win this war for us. So guys, if you want to help us create more videos like this one, you can also make a financial donation by clicking the donate button on YouTube or by going to tbnisrael.org/give. Any amount will help us create more videos from Israel and share the truth. But remember, the most important thing to do is pray. And now we'll move on to the hot topic of the hour, the growing signs of an imminent attack on Iran's renegade nuclear program. You don't want to miss this. The United States and Israel are moving forces into position and planning a massive attack on Iran to destroy its nuclear capabilities, with reports coming in fast and furious in media portals all over the world. In one recent report in the British media portal The Sun, a senior Israeli official was quoted by saying, "We need to address Iran's nuclear program. From Israel's point of view, with Trump in the White House, this is the optimal moment to deal with Iran. There will be no better opportunities." Other Israeli sources quoted in this report added that there is still time for Iran to enter negotiations to avoid a strike by giving up its military nuclear program, but that window is closing very, very fast. And in a report on Sunday evening in the Jerusalem Post, it was stated that the United States military has deployed a second Tahad defensive battery into Israel, and Iran has put its own military forces on maximum alert for what that's worth. Many other developments have been reported over the last 24 hours, which gives support to a report over the weekend in the Saudi-owned El Arabiya channel that a strike on Iran will occur by the end of April. So stay tuned. It is important to point out that the development of the additional Tahad battery to Israel, along with its radar systems, can detect incoming threats at a range of 2,000 kilometers. It can also be integrated with existing Israeli systems and other defensive infrastructures that the United States has in Turkey, Qatar, Jordan, and Egypt. This gives an added layer of protection against the possibility of large numbers of Iranian ballistic missiles and drones being fired at Israel or any regional military base used by the United States or British forces in this region. And Iranian officials have responded all the preparations by the United States and Israeli forces about the way you would expect them to, with bluster and hollow threats. This included a statement by the deputy political official of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps, who said that Iran will respond to any attack by opening a new chapter in the region and the entire world. We'll see what that means. But he wasn't the only Iranian official using angry threats this week. Amidst the continuation of the intense US strikes against Iran's Houthi affiliate in Yemen, the Houthi terrorists, a senior Iranian official issued a direct threat to a series of Gulf states which host American military forces. This official declared that if an American attack on Iran is launched from these bases, Iran would retaliate with strikes against them. According to a report by the Reuters news agency, the countries that the threat was directed at include Iraq, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Turkey, and Bahrain. According to that report, any support by these countries for a United States strike on Iran, including the use of their airspace or territory by the United States' military during an attack, would be considered a hostile move. Such an act will have harsh consequences for them. This is according to the Iranian official, adding that the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has placed Iran's armed forces on high alert. So if I can make a personal comment on all of this, I think that I speak for all Israelis when I say that these threats by Iranian officials don't scare me. It actually sounds to me like they are scared, and they should be. So to all of you in Iran, in Iraq that watch these reports, I say that now is the time for courage. These insane delusions of the Ayatollahs and the reign of terror that they have imposed on all of us, and especially you, are going to be over very soon. So let's unite in prayer for you to have better leadership. And to all of our viewers in the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps, who we know watch these videos, I say now is the time for you to activate your escape plans. So take off your uniforms, grab those fake identity papers, the euros, the dollars, and maybe even the Israeli shekels that you've been hiding in your basement, and get out of Iran while you still can. There's nothing that you can do to save this psychotic regime. It's time to start thinking about saving your own skins, because the United States and Israel are not messing this time. And on that note, I must also report to you that the regime is continuing to reject American calls to hold direct negotiations between the two countries and insists on indirect talks only through transferring messages via Oman. So an Iranian source told Reuters, the news agency, that indirect talks offer an opportunity to assess Washington's seriousness about a political solution with Iran. And according to that Iranian official, such talks may start soon. And as a reminder, yesterday, the British Telegraph reported that Iran has ordered its advisors and military personnel to leave Yemen. This is a move perceived as the abandonment of its Houthi allies at a time when the United States is escalating its airstrikes. A senior Iranian official also told the Telegraph that the move was intended to avoid direct confrontation with the United States in case that an Iranian official was terminated by US strikes. This seems strange to me, since many Iranian soldiers have been terminated by the United States, by Israel, and other forces in the region over the years, and it never led to a direct confrontation, which makes me think that Iran is not prepared for a serious confrontation despite all of its threats and all of its warnings. But a direct confrontation appears more likely every day that moves on. And whether Iran is prepared for it or not, it seems like this is what will happen. So as we have reported, the American military has deployed 2 aircraft carriers and strategic bombers to the region in the last few weeks, in addition to the massive forces it already has there. The B-2 bombers that have been deployed to the Diego Garcia are capable of carrying the massive ordnance penetration, which is a ton weapon specially designed to destroy Iran's underground nuclear facilities. This is a massive bunker buster. And here at TBN Israel, we will continue to report on every development regarding the head of the axis of evil in the Middle East. I'm talking about the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps. And of course, we ask you to support our efforts by sharing these videos on YouTube and following us on social media. Please look for the subscribe button and hit it so you help us reach more people across the world. And as always, we ask you to share the truth and pray for the peace of Jerusalem. That's how we battle this war, by prayers, and prayers work. So we conclude today's report with a look at Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's trip to Washington, D.C. for a 2-day visit to talk with President Donald Trump in the White House. Plans for dealing with the Iranian threat are expected to be the main topic of discussion. Israel sees recent developments as a reason to tighten the coordination with Washington, as the concern in Israel is that in the face of Trump threats, Iran will race towards the nuclear bomb, and so it is important to coordinate with the president about what to do if the Americans and the talks on the new nuclear deal fails. It's also likely that Trump wanted to meet with Netanyahu to ensure that both leaders see the Iranian threat eye to eye, and that Israel will not strike on its own without coordination with the United States of America. And additionally, the Americans have given the IDF backing over the renewal of the fighting in the Gaza Strip, but this backing is not unlimited, as the number of casualties in Gaza continues to rise and the world puts pressure on Israel. Trump has a bigger plan in mind, which is normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia. For that, he needs quiet in the Gaza Strip and a solution to the hostage situation. And there isn't much time to finalize all of that before his planned visit to Riyadh in early May. In Israel, the political system, the direct involvement of the United States, and in particular, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, is seen as a critical means of increasing pressure on Hamas and accelerating the process towards a deal to release the Israeli hostages and end this war. Netanyahu is expected to ask Trump to use his influence on regional partners while at the same time making public a resolute American endorsement of Israel's positions so that Hamas does not mistakenly calculate again that there are gaps between Israel and the Americans. Netanyahu's visit also comes amidst a global economic crisis caused by the United States tariffs on a number of countries, including Israel. And according to political sources, Jerusalem tried to avoid the measures by removing tariffs on American goods, but encountered the Trump administration's resolute position on this matter. So in light of this, Netanyahu will also meet in Washington with American Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, the man leading President Trump's tariff policy in an attempt to minimize the damage to the Israeli industry. Netanyahu's circle is worried about the steep decline in the stock market and the severe harm to the Israeli citizens, so the Prime Minister wants to resolve this conflict, or at least minimize the damage. So guys, please join us in praying for the safety of our hostages in the Gaza Strip. Pray for the IDF soldiers that are fighting on multiple fronts. I think it's time to pray for our leaders really strongly, because they need to make some very tough decisions. Let's pray for the leaders of the United States, Britain, Europe, Israel, and all the countries in the Middle East to make the best decisions, the godly decisions in this situation. The most important thing that we can do is unite in prayer for the peace of Jerusalem, and together we will win this war, because God is on our side.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.